Hey, welcome back to Brighter Rays. Our study is called What is Your Name? And we're in the Genesis chapter 32, 24 through 32. Today we're looking at 26 through 29. And today's study is called Jacob Asks for the Name. We're going to be talking a little bit about names today. This guy that Jacob's wrestling in this chapter, what's going on with that? So let's dive in. First, Jacob now has a dislocated hip, right? Because last time we looked at, all the man did was just touch his hip. The break of day, he says, "Let me go," and the guy says, it's time for you to stop wrestling me. And so he just touches his hip, and out pops his hip. So Jacob has a dislocated hip, but he still holds on to the man. He's clinging on to this man. The man turns to Jacob and says, "Let me go, for the day was broken." So Jacob, even though he's clearly was disabled now, is still holding on with all he has to this man. And the man says, "Let me go. It's day. It's time to let me go." But Jacob says, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Now, if you go back to Hosea 12, which I mentioned last time, Hosea 12 says that he wept and sought his favor. And so this is not a man who is triumphant. This is not a man who's arrogant. This is not one who is demanding by his own power and strength, like you must submit to me and give me your blessing. No, Hosea 12 lets us in on a little detail here that Genesis doesn't, and it says that he sought his favor with weeping. And so he was seeking his favor. He was weeping about it. He wanted it so bad. He wanted the blessing so bad. He was crying about it. He was just clinging on to this man saying, "You must bless me." And so that's the image of Jacob that we should have here, is that he's not forcing the man to give his blessing. He's begging the man for his blessing. He's asking for favor. He's asking for grace, unmerited favor. He's asking with tears in his eyes. He's clinging on to the man and refuses to let him go until he receives a blessing from him. He wants this man's blessing so badly that he is willing, with hip dislocated, hold on to this man and not let go. So he's not letting it go, not out of defiance, but with a desire to receive a blessing. This sort of blessing comes when a superior blesses an inferior, right? Jacob's not saying, I wrestled with you all night and I beat you, so now give me the blessing. He's saying, you're obviously the superior, I'm the inferior, I need your blessing. He's begging for the blessing. He's seeking it with tears. So we've seen this happen several times in Genesis, actually. When a father, the superior, blesses his son, the inferior, right? The father blessing the son, we see that. Or when the King of Salem, the superior, blesses Abraham, who is the inferior, which is, we talked about that a while back, but it was an interesting story to see that Abraham submits himself to the King of Salem as the superior over him. And he gives the money and acquiesces to his authority. And so you see this here with Jacob. He is acquiescing to the man's authority. Whoever this man is, we don't know yet. And so Jacob knows that he is in the presence of someone who is superior to him and has a valuable blessing to give. You only want really a blessing from someone who has something to give to you, right? You seek blessings from people who are higher than you. You seek blessings from people who that blessing is valuable in this situation. If you're a son, you want the blessing of your father because that is valuable. That'll change your life. If you are the king, you expect people to go to you. If you're not the king, you want the blessing of the king because that is valuable. And so here he is seeking a valuable blessing from this man. The man asks for Jacob's name next. And then he says, "Okay, your name's Jacob? Well, your name shall no longer be Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed." So the man changes Jacob's name from a supplanter from the heel grabber, from the deceiver, to strives with God. The reason given for the name change is that Jacob has striven with both God and man and has prevailed. Again, the man changing Jacob's name is significant because only a superior could do that, right? Back in Genesis chapter 17, we saw a similar name change when God changes Abram's name to Abraham. Very similar situation. And so you have this, again, a superior changing the name of an inferior person, right? The inferior doesn't go and say, I'm going to change your name, O king. You don't do that, right? And the kids don't say, hey, I'm going to change your name, Dad. I'm going to change your name, Mom. That doesn't happen. It happens the other way. When those who are in authority, those who are superior, change the names of those who are below them. All right, so let's stop and think for a minute and review what we know so far about this man that Jacob wrestled. He's a man, it says. The word in Hebrew is the normal word for man. It's ish. Jacob had power to wrestle him for some time, right? Jacob was able to wrestle this man. But when the man chose, he could simply touch. In Hebrew, it is the word for touch. Jacob's hip and without joint. Clearly, this man has some power and willingly chose to wrestle with Jacob for as long as he did. He didn't have to, obviously, because if all he had to do was just touch the guy's hip and boom, he could have stopped the wrestle match any time. I mean, if all he had to do was touch him, he could have touched all of his joints and put everything out of joint. That would have been extremely painful, and maybe some people suggest maybe he didn't hurt Jacob or not. He had a limp, so I don't know. Sometimes things like this hurt. So, but the idea is that this man just touched him and boom, it was done. So, and also, this man is superior to Jacob. So much so that Jacob refused to let him go until he was blessed by him. Then we arrive at verse 29, and Jacob asks for the man's name. Now, the man's reply is, why is that you ask my name? Now, there was a reason why the man asked Jacob's name, and there was validity for that. But it's almost as if, like, why are you asking my name? That's not a right question. There's a couple ways to read this statement. Is the man asking why Jacob is asking for his name because he already knows who he is? That could be one way to interpret it. Yeah, it makes sense in the context. Maybe Jacob already knows who this guy is, and so he's asking, why are you asking my name? And some people have taken that over the years, and that is a possible way to read this. Or is he asking because Jacob thinks he has the right to know his name, which he is not, since they're not equals? Or is the man asking the question because Jacob can't know his name? He's not able to understand his name. He's not capable of this. So we come back to the question, who is this man? Who is this man? Because if they were equal combatants, and like, okay, yeah, you might have beaten me or whatever, but you can still ask that person's name if you are on the same level with each other. But he's saying, why do you ask my name? I asked your name. I have the right to do that. I have the power to do that. I have the authority to do that and then change your name. But you don't have the right to ask my name. You can't ask my name. You don't know my name, or you already know who I am. So why are you asking my name? Why would you ask my name since you already know it? Very interesting. Who is this man? Who is this one that Jacob is wrestling? Who is the man who has the power just to touch someone's hip and put it out of socket? Who is this guy? And next time, come back, we'll get closer, I think, to the answer of this as we look at a few more details from this story. So come back and we'll look at verses 30 through 32.